Sure.
And would you like to give us some latest update on highly skilled Fairness to Highly Skilled Act?
Sure. So the current Congress is considering it's called the Fairness for High Skilled Immigrants Act of 2019. It's already passed the House. It needs to be considered in the Senate. Now, Congress is out right now. They won't be back for a few more weeks. So nothing is going to happen in August on this bill. But it seems like this bill has fairly high bipartisan support. I always get suspicious when I see a bill that starts with fairness, because I always wonder, who is it fair to?
Right.
And in the current administration, usually to the current anti-immigration forces within the administration. So that's what I worry about. At first blush, when you look at this bill, like if you go on to congress.gov and you look up the bill, for instance, it's called HR 1044, by the way. When you look up the bill summary just tells you that the bill is going to increase the per country cap from 7% to 15%. That's great. It sounds great for countries, particularly like India and China, where you have a backlog.
Right.
But and there'll be a transition from 2020 to 2022. There'll be a transition for EB2 and EB3 and EB5 investors. If you're not from countries with the two countries with the largest number of recipients, which is China and India, right?
Right.
Then there'll be a phase-in process. Then there'll be a limit. It gets quite complicated percentage-wise, but not more than 85% will be allocated to immigrants from any single country. So while you get 15% instead of 7% on the total, which in theory should improve your chances or speed up the immigrant visa processing, or your priority date, when your priority date becomes current. Keep in mind that countries like India and China, which are the two largest users, will still have a backlog. So I think this has been much touted abroad, especially in India, as like things are going to completely change for us. We're going to get green cards much faster. That's just not actually true, right? It may not happen. So that's the concern. If the bill advances, there are two different forces. There are forces even within the American Immigration Lawyers Association that say this bill is unfair, and there are forces that say the bill is very fair, and they're excited to see something.
Okay.
So I would say, as I've said in previous calls, I'm very suspicious of this bill. I don't know that it will do everything that we hope that it will do, and which would be, eliminating what they call discriminatory per country caps, right? And some people want to do that, eliminate the per country caps completely. But the fact is, if India uses more of the per country, if India uses more of the immigrant visa numbers, if there's no cap, then obviously it's, what they say is it's unfair to other people in other countries, right? So that's one of the concerns. My concern would be the impact of this on the long term. So I actually don't hold out great hope for this bill. Some people want to block it because they think it's unfair. But I would just say to people, please be cautious in terms of how you promote this bill, or what you feel that this bill will do for you. Probably won't do anything in the immediate future, but 2020, 2022, you should start to see some movement. So just keep in mind, I'll get some more detail about this bill, and I'll be posting it, and I'll send you the links to that, because I think it's important for people to be informed. I think right now everybody says, well, it's going to speed up the green card process. That I'm all for it, but it may have other impacts in terms of your family members, or the country that you're from. It still may not move things forward. So I'll get you some more details on that. So
that will be good to discuss. And when you say family members might be impacted, could you please give us an example?
Yeah. So for instance, right now, if you bring in, if you get a green card, then you're counted as one number that's used, right? In the total scheme, that 15%, let's say. So you might be counted. This bill may add, and I'll get you some more information on that, but there's a lot of talk about counting derivatives. So in the past, if you have a derivative, meaning your spouse and your children, so that you were counted as one, the primary beneficiary is counted as one immigrant visa number. Now you throw in 4 derivatives because you have 3 children and a spouse. Now you're counted as 5. So my concern would be if this bill includes that addition to count, then now the 15% actually may end up being less than 7% because now you're counting derivatives where you weren't counting derivatives in the past.
Okay.
So that's a concern, and it would be unfair in that case. But that's one of my big concerns. So and I'll get you some more information on that. But if derivatives start being counted in this, then we're going to have a big problem.
Yeah. Then my understanding is completely incorrect. Then I was under the impression that right now the scenario is the derivatives are not counted.
Yeah, derivatives are not counted now. Absolutely, they're not counted.
Okay. So, okay.
Yeah, now they're not counted. In the future, they're talking about counting them. And the other issue is family-based sponsorship becomes an issue. There are going to be some changes in the family-based sponsorship under this bill. So we're just waiting.
Okay.
Sorry about this.
Sorry to interrupt, Stephanie. So I believe Fairness to Highly Skilled Act, it's only one structure they have, right? Or do they have different clauses in it where we discussed one is basically 7 to 15%? Are there different possible outcomes for that? Or is it just that one proposal that they have?
Well, the bill's passed the House. Okay. So as is. The Senate will now get it. If the Senate makes any changes, then we'll have to discuss those changes because those changes will then have to go back to the House to be approved. Okay. So it'll go back and forth like that. So so the House has passed their version, which is the version you can see on congress.gov.
Okay.
Again, it's HR 1044. And but if the Senate, and it's always likely that the Senate and committee will start making changes to the bill. If they make changes, the House is going to have to review those changes. So we're waiting. And I know there's a big campaign right now to voice their support or their lack of support for the bill. So I have I'm getting emails like crazy from both sides of the issue saying, this is a horrible bill for employees. And then I'm getting the same thing saying, hey, this is a wonderful bill for employees. So it just depends on what side you come down on. And inevitably, we don't know, right? We don't know until the final bill comes through the Senate what it's going to look like. But we do know what the House has passed now, and we can kind of make a decision based on that. I'm always just very suspicious when they do this, because especially the current administration, because that fairness is usually like, the previous releases, like fairness to the American worker, right? Which really just means we're going to be harder on your H-1Bs, right? To me, that's what it means. And that's exactly what it is, because you can be fair to the American worker without gutting the H-1B system, for instance, right? So,
gotcha. Really
so more to come on that. So it's very complex, the per country limits, but that's what we see.
But let me ask you this one question though. The bill that House has passed, does that include counting derivatives or no?
I have to look into that, to be honest with you. Yeah.
No problem. Yeah, we can discuss about it next time. And then if you have,
let's do that.
Circle back. Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Those are the 2 questions I have. And then I think owning a business and then being able to contribute at least some time towards it. It's more like for